gold, XP, and magic items. I'd be willing to bet you've used these three things in any combination to reward your players for a fight well fought or a session well sessioned. But are there better ways to reward your players? This week, I discuss 5 alternative rewards for your players aside from the titular trifecta of titillating treasures. Hello players and GMs, I am Reese, and welcome to another video by Jetpack7. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. YouTube's algorithm continues to change every single day, and as more creators come along, they have to be more strict with what channels get seen. So if you want to support my channel, the absolute best way to do it is to scroll down and click the subscribe button, other than if you're like a famous D&D personality with hundreds of thousands of followers and shared a link to my YouTube channel or whatever. That would probably be better than just subscribing. This week, I wanted to take a little break from my spell ranking series and move into something a little more advice and idea oriented. This is something I've given a fair amount of thought because I am the type of D&D player that gets very, very bored when the game starts to get kind of repetitive. And to me, the most repetitive element of this game that I've experienced is combat rewards. If you're running XP, then every monster gives XP. If you're running milestone, they give gold or magic items. Whatever combination of the three, those are the standard rewards for winning a combat or roleplay encounter, and that's about all I ever see the majority of the time. So it's gotten me wondering in the past, what else is there? What are other satisfying yet unique rewards for winning an encounter or succeeding at really anything in the game? That's what we're going to talk about today. 5 rewards for your players that aren't some combination of gold, XP, or magic items. Let's start off first with a mechanical reward and one of my personal favorite things to give players: skill points. One of my biggest complaints with 5e is that there is not a notated or official way to increase your skills other than through class and race features or feats. So when I run a game, I usually like to give my players the option to spend their free time training their skills to level them up, increasing the amount of time it takes for those skills to go up each time. That said, sometimes it can be an awesome reward to award your players free skill points for a successful encounter or adventure. Few things feel more exciting than when your players finish a dungeon or a super exhausting boss fight, and in addition to whatever other stuff they get, they also get a skill point to assign to whatever skills they choose. Skills, in my opinion, are such a character-defining part of 5th edition. One of the biggest pride points for many PCs is their ability to pick locks or persuade potential allies, stealth through the enemy camp, or brute force a door down. And being able to toss a few points in any of those as a job well done will give your players a much more satisfying answer than just items or XP. You can give them as many as you want, but be wary on giving away too many because skills can become pretty huge pretty quickly due to their natural scaling through the game. I'd recommend giving away no more than 1 at a time to each player and only giving away maybe 3 to 5 throughout an entire campaign. The more you can spread them out, the more satisfying it will be to receive them. Another one of my favorite ways to reward my players is a purely in-game roleplay oriented reward: give them a home base. This can come in the form of a castle, a keep, a mansion, a piece of land, a city, hell, an entire country can be your party's home base if they're high enough level. This is one, especially in a homebrew setting, that you can be really, really lavish with and not worry about the mechanical repercussions in the game. The most rewarding thing about a home base is that it provides your party with a place to come back to after adventures, somewhere in this made-up world that really and truly belongs to them. So often a party of adventurers adopt a sort of wanderer lifestyle where they go from one place to another, solving mysteries out of their mystery machine or whatever. A home base provides a sense of safety and comfort to the party that is so hard to come by in D&D, and can also provide some very nice benefits as well. They can have a bastion of defense if they're being attacked. They can have people working in it and managing their base so that they can come back to freshly crafted armor or weapons, gathered herbs for potions and poisons, new component materials for component pouches, that kind of stuff. Some people believe you should wait until later in the game to reward your players with this, but I am of the mind that by the time they're level 5, they are some of the most powerful people in the world and can absolutely have a keep of their own. Again, the mechanical benefits are few, it's more about the conveniences, but if your parties are anything like mine, they will get so much joy out of having a place to call home, and maybe spend hours upon hours in an interior design session, making sure their rooms are perfectly designed to fit their character. Pro tip, make all the bedrooms the same size and with the same amenities. You'll thank me later. Next up is the one you'll want to be the most careful with in terms of mechanical power, new feats. I love feats. They are the things in the game that set your character apart from members of that same class and subclass mechanically. They add so much power and so many fun interactions that it makes it very appealing to players when they get one for free, obviously making it a very, very great reward. This is essentially a step up from the skill points, accomplishing a very similar goal, rewarding characters for in-game play with in-game power. Very few magic items can add the same amount of unique power to a character that feats can. Most of them allow you to hit harder or give you spells you didn't have access to before, while feats have so many different abilities that giving your players a freebie can be an awesome way to liven up your game. But again, be very careful. I'd give away one or two at most for free over the course of the entire campaign, because I am a firm believer that feats are also what can make a character absolutely game-breakingly powerful. They're an amazing reward, which means you can't be handing them out lightly. That said, when you do, your players are going to love it, way more than a handful of gold and XP. And another step up from giving your characters a home base is to reward them with in-game influence. A home base gives them a place to come home to. Influence gives them power in places outside of their home. This can take the form of titles, nobility, business ownership, political positions, knighthood, whatever you want it to be. The important aspect of influence is that your party will gain followers, and their words will have power over people who operate within their realm of influence. This doesn't necessarily mean they'll have bodyguards or random civilians throwing themselves in harm's way just to absorb a hit. This just means that when they enter a room, people know who they are. And more importantly, when they talk, people listen. Holding sway in a position of power means the ability to move people to action. Mobilizing the city guards to defend against an oncoming threat, encouraging the Thieves Guild to rob a particular noble, starting a coup amongst your civilians in an attempt to overthrow a corrupt leadership. There are so many things your party can do with influence, and granting them those titles can often be a bigger reward than any amount of gold or magic items. It also gives them the opportunity to create a name for their character in this world that doesn't just revolve around the monsters they've slain. They can become more than adventurers. They can become politicians, knights, royal mages, even kings or queens. The options are truly limitless here. So I say go to town and let your players rule the freaking world if they want. Because from a DM's perspective, the more powerful a player, the more people there are trying to take them down. And that leads to a lot of fun for the person running the game as well. The final recommendation I have is one that I think a lot of GMs take for granted. Give your players another adventure. So often we forget that all players truly want to do is play more D&D. So when they complete a dungeon or have an awesome roleplay moment, sometimes the best way to reward them is to give them a nudge into the beginning of their next awesome adventure. Of course, it is satisfying to feel like you've completed one adventure, so make sure to give them that in spades. But the exciting part about finishing one thing is that you now get to see what comes next. Say your players got to the end of a trap-filled, zombie-infested tomb where they had to fight a lich or some other wild encounter at the end. They get a huge hoard of treasure, gold, magic items, and a small note that seems to hint that the lich's true hoard lies elsewhere. Basically, they get to go on a treasure hunt, and along the way you can run that adventure any way you'd like, but the players already have that end goal in mind that you've created simply by placing a note in the midst of a massive hoard of treasure. That is the most important reward in that entire place. The knowledge that they have more adventure before them. They've completed one bit, now they can go on to the next incredible arc of their story. Again, the goal of D&D is just to have fun, and I can think of no better reward to accomplish this goal than the promise of more awesome gameplay in the coming days. All right, those are 5 ways of rewarding your players outside of the standard 3. Let me know in the comments what you all think of my list. What do you use outside of the big 3 to reward your players? If I see some unique answers, I may include them in a follow-up video about this very same subject. Again, if you liked this video, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you around.